whoa. That's why we can read the Bible, but reading it and understanding it, not exactly the same all the time. And we have to understand what was the point Jesus was trying to make and apply that point to today, rather than assuming that the narrow path fits our understanding of who's in and who's out of heaven. I thought that was a great illustration of that. Other questions on any of these Sermon on the Mount things? Because there's a bunch of stuff that's hard to understand. You know, turn the other cheek, go the extra mile.
You define meek. You said something about it in 77. I think it's always one.
Yeah, meek has both a positive and a negative side to it. The positive side to meek would be humble. And that's usually if we preach on this, and I preached on it in the past, if I was trying to say, how do I become more meek? With that understanding that I want to be gentle and humble and that. Blessed are those who are humble. I need to be more humble if I just get more humble. The opposite side of that is the walked on, the powerless. Those who are meek are those who have no power and ability to stand up for themselves. So the circumstances are they're powerless in our world, in our society, and they get walked on. And they don't earn the earth, they inherit it. So what they get is a gift from God. They, through their own power, cannot lift themselves up. God's gift will allow them to rise up where they don't have to be walked on any longer.
So meek is not their basic personality, it's what's happened to them.
It's a circumstance of their life. I'm laying in a bed in a nursing home and nobody visits me and I don't know what they're doing to me and I just lay there one day after the next and I have no advocate. That's the weak. That's the meek as far as I'm concerned. And God promises that that will be reversed for them. And who's supposed to reverse it? We are. We're the ones, Jesus said, we're supposed to go visit. We're supposed to care for. That's what we're here for. And we want to say, well, when they die, then this will all be reversed. Well, that's true. But it can be reversed now as we who have the capacity begin to work the way Jesus would have us work. I guess I'm just a firm believer in just saying it's what we do now matters. What we think matters, how we act matters, the actions we take matter. And that commandments are not just to be thought about, but this is something to be lived. Jesus lived this and demonstrated all the things he's talking about, he lived. So if he's teaching his disciples, this is how you are to live, I'm assuming, let's do it. Right? Okay. Yes, ma'am?
If you do what you just said, how can you tell that you're doing the right thing? What indications will you have in your life that you have gotten on the right path?
It's a great question. In your life, how did you know? How have you been able to tell?
Probably only in little things. In big things, I haven't been able to tell. But in little things, sometimes there's just something comes into my mind and I'm saying, that come from?
Yeah.
And that was like a guide to what it was that I was trying to decide to do or not do. But the big things I can't say.
I don't know that it is necessarily big things. The other thing with meek is the opposite of meek is inherit the earth. And that kind of means dispossessed. So if God's going to give them the earth, it means they don't have it. So it's more than just an attitude or thought, I need to be more humble. But yeah, how do we measure that? I think for me, the measurement is how do I feel when I leave there? Was I supposed to be there? I've made visits for people who are unconscious, and I walk out feeling like I'm supposed to be there. That was the right thing for me to do. It's good for my soul. Now, whether they remember it, heard whatever I said or prayed, I have no idea. But I'm being faithful to what I'm supposed to do. And there's something in that. It also keeps me from being very judgmental of others. Because as I'm doing this and I understand that sometimes these people deserve to be where they're at and sometimes they don't, that's less of a question to me. The question is they find themselves here. Now what? Where do so that the blame, they don't ever do it or repeat it or something like that. Okay, but I guess as a pastor, I'm not interested in blame. I'm interested in how do we go from here, and what does God's love or grace, healing give us as we move forward? How can we
Maybe the
do
little
that?
things out of the big things.
Pardon me?
Maybe the little things really out of the big things.
Yeah,
The little things.
yeah. I mean, sometimes you find the big things, but when you find the big things, you're talking long periods of time. So, Elisa talking about Planet with Purpose, you're going to see the difference between a village that's starting and one that's been there for 20 years. And to see the economy and the vegetation and the growth and all the good stuff that's happened over this period of time. So when do we get to see the fruit of the result? I don't know. Maybe some of what we're doing is planting the seeds, spreading the manure. I do a lot of that. The watering kind. But the growth happens whether we see it or not. That's the Holy Spirit's work. And so yeah, it's fun to see fruits. It's really fun to see fruit. But I quit working towards that end. I assume that if I'm doing what God has placed me there to do, that the fruits will come. Whether I see it or not, I'm okay with that. I've got peace with that part of it. It's taken a lot of stress out of my life, too. Yes.
Kind of along Marilyn's question about the big things and the little things. I've changed jobs a lot across the last 17 years and moved a lot, and I've prayed and prayed for God's guidance. Do I do this? Do I not do this? And there have been times where there just has been no answer, and people who know me know I've wrestled, particularly if I moved to Southern California, how I really wrestled. Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? It took me a long time of prayer and thinking and whatever, finally realizing, in some of those decisions, I think what God cares about is what we do with the decision after we've made it. So I made this decision, so now, what is it that you do with your life? Do you grow in the Lord? Do you follow God's way? That maybe either decision was the right decision. That didn't matter. Whether go to Austin, Texas, come here, that didn't matter. What mattered was what I continued to do with my life. But sometimes there's just a fork in the road, and whichever fork you take, it's up to you to do the best with it in God's will.
Yeah, that's what Luther said, sin boldly.
Okay.
You come to the fork of the road, you don't know which way to go and what's
Right.
best. He goes, just pick.
Just pick.
Just pick one. If it's the wrong one, you'll know it, and God will direct you onto the right path for you. But for crying out loud, don't stay stuck.
Yeah.
Move!
Yeah.
Move!
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
the Yogi Bear up there.
Yeah.
Come to the fork of the road.
Take it, yeah.
So I think sometimes it's more just what we do with that decision.
Well, yeah, it doesn't pay to look back and say if only. It's
Yeah.
where do I go now, and how do I make the best of where I am? So, when I heard the doctor say cancer to me, I went, oh, crud. And then you get the why question, and I kind of think I deserved it. I think the stress that I put my body under for so many years could have contributed to that. One of the questions I ask whenever I get sick now is, why now? What's going on in my life that makes me susceptible to illness at this point in my life? Think about the colds you get. I mean, when I get them, it's usually right after a holiday. This year, Deb did 2 choir things. I got 2 Sundays off, so I got up before Christmas instead of after. It's all your fault. You didn't get sick because you were working through, yeah. Your body never let down at all. I relaxed a little bit, and that's when we get sick. And so it's, you know, it's, I don't want to say all illnesses are that way, but it's just a question I ask. You know, how do I get some more balance so that this doesn't always happen to me, and I've set myself up for these things. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting, it's, how do we, you know, then I